Welcome to the Insomnia Project. Sit back, relax, and listen as we have a ever so calm conversation meant to help you find your way to sleep, drift off, relax, sit back. You know the drill. You've been listening, and if you haven't been listening, welcome. I'm your host, Marco Timpano.
I'm Amanda Barker.
Amanda and I are, I just put pause on the washing machine and the dryer that were tumbling behind us, Amanda.
There was lots of tumbles.
So many tumbles. Last week, we did an episode based on one of our listener suggestions, Amanda. Mm-hmm. This week, this suggestion was sent in by Susan Ross, 88, on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
And I particularly love the winter scenes that Susan has on their Instagram page. They want to know, Amanda, what your approach to Duolingo is.
Oh, that's an interesting question.
And adults learning new things.
Ooh, okay. Well, that's a pretty rich topic, I think.
And there's more too, but we'll start there.
Well, let me start with the first question. Duolingo, here's the thing. I've realized about myself, actually rather recently, that I'm very task and goal driven. Mm-hmm. So for me, I like to achieve a goal, particularly an attainable or somewhat attainable goal.
We should mention that Duolingo is a language app to help you learn a second language.
Or several second languages, including English, or to brush up on language skills. It's actually quite an amazing app. I believe it was developed because, to help populations learn other languages.
Sure.
But also
to transcribe literary works or stuff that's on the internet, right? Old scrolls.
Maybe. I thought it was like a Wikipedia thing, but no.
Or maybe it was to.
Oh no! Now I'm
something
to translate works.
To translate the works in other languages.
I thought it was Wikipedia. Well, now I don't know.
Okay, so there's some obscurity to that. But Amanda, you have been doing Duolingo for how many days straight?
I'm going to look it up right now.
Okay, Amanda's going to look it up. Because Amanda has been so active on Duolingo, I also started doing Duolingo in French to brush up my French. Because, of course, I studied French in high school and grade school. But that's where it stopped. And I've always wanted to develop my French better. And I'll be going to Montreal in April twice. So I'm going to be able to practice what I've been learning. And I'll tell you this, my French, I can tell, has already gotten better.
I know. Your French has gotten better. Mm-hmm. I am on day, as of today, 1,532 of my Italian studies. And the truth is, I had about 50 days prior to that. And then I lost my streak. So one of the things they have on Duolingo is streak freezes and streaks, and so they kind of encourage you to keep up your streak, and you're in points, and you can buy with the points a streak freeze in case you need a day off or take a day off inadvertently.
A streak is consecutive days of doing the tasks.
So I've definitely used streak freezes, so I want to be really upfront with that.
Sure.
But that being said, it's day 1,532.
We'll just count the 50 that you lost as once
streak
you made.
Freezes.
Yeah, there you
sure. Go. I would say, my approach to Italian at this point was my approach to becoming an actor, which was I'm going to do it or I will die trying.
Okay, fair enough.
I hope that sounds okay, but that was my approach to becoming an actor, because there were so many people. I didn't really try to start acting legitimately until I was probably 25, and I had heard a lot of reasons to do other things.
Sure.
Like you do. And I finally just went, well, I want to know that I've tried. So I'm going to go there and I'm going to try. And I'll just keep trying until I can't try anymore.
And your Italian has gotten much better since you've been doing it.
Has
I will
it?
say,
Do
yeah,
you think it's
your
better?
pronunciation is really lovely.
It's definitely helped with pronunciation. I've learned a lot of vocabulary.
Amanda turned to me the other day and she said, "You know what I learned?" And I was the what? She's like, "Francobolli." And I was like, "Oh my God, stamps. You had just learned about stamps, how to say stamps."
I feel like people on this podcast don't understand how beautiful and melodic your Italian is. I would love it if you did a full episode in Italian.
We don't have many listeners from Italy who listen to the show.
Yeah. Okay. But it would be nice for people. I find, listen, I had a German movie on the other day, and that German, which
put me to sleep.
put you to sleep, which one would argue German is a lot less melodic than Italian. I think it's a fair argument, but sometimes hearing another language and just the soft sounds of someone speaking in another language is enough to soothe you into sleep.
Well, maybe I will. We'll see what our listeners say to that.
Okay.
I'm looking for listener suggestions. So
I say
that's your
Italian
approach.
episode.
So Amanda, how do you address your Duolingo? Like, do you do it in the morning? Do you do it in the afternoon?
I find I tend to do it at night before I go to sleep because I'm like, oh, I haven't done it yet. I should do it before the day is out. But I often will do it if I'm waiting for an appointment at a doctor's or dentist's office. Or sometimes I'll do it if I have a little bit of a lull at work for a few minutes just to grab a coffee. I'll do it there.
I see.
Sometimes I do it first thing in the day when I'm, spending some quality time in the bathroom.
I see. So that's your approach to using Duolingo. And how do you find it as far as language acquisition and language knowledge is concerned?
Well, I'm going to be really honest. I found there's aspects to it for myself that I find frustrating because I find for conversation, my brain still goes to French. That's its first thing. And I'm frustrated that I'm, almost 1,500 days or past 1,500 days of this. And that I'm still, when I actually want to have conversational Italian in a real world setting,
Sure.
i.e. speaking to your mom or her friends that might, her English is great, obviously, but there are other people in her life where they mostly speak Italian to her.
Right.
So I would love to have a conversation in Italian with some of your mom's friends. That for me would be a huge accomplishment. However, I'm not there, and that's what's frustrating to me. So it's the conversational stuff where I'm lacking how do I put the sentences together is still not where I would like it to be.
Sure.
I can tell you what stamps are, or the press, or all the animals, or various foods. There's lots I can tell you about Italian.
Is there a favorite word that you can tell us?
You know what's funny? When you ask me that, all I can think of is Elizabeth Gilbert's favorite word in Italian.
Well, if we had Elizabeth Gilbert in the studio,
Wouldn't that
would be
amazing?
awesome.
Yeah, author Elizabeth Gilbert. In Eat, Pray, Love, she talks about the word, I think, and she does it in a weird phrasing, but it's like to cross. It's like, now I can't remember the word, but avertrasiamo?
Attraversiamo, like to cross the street.
Yeah.
I thought you meant to do the sign of the cross. I was trying to think of that.
No. I don't know. Genuflect. Yeah. So that's always the first one that comes to. Francobolli is my favorite. I have to say the word for bus is one of my favorites because it was unexpected.
Sure.
Il pullman.
Pullman, yeah.
Like a Pullman bus.
Yeah.
Somehow there's no other word for bus other than Pullman.
There you go.
Which is really funny to me that it's not a slang for bus, but actually the word for bus. So I guess that's mine. Well, how about you for French? Have you learned some new words that make you laugh?
Chouette or chouette for owl.
Owl, yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. Mm-hmm. And what's the one that I was saying just the other day and you were like, oh yeah, they use that a lot in French for each or every chaque.
Chaque.
Chaque, yeah.
Like ogni.
Right.
Like think in Italian, ogni is each and every, right?
Yeah.
Do they use that a lot in Italian? I think they say this and that a lot in Italian.
Sure.
Questa.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot with your family.
Yeah. So those were the two words.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
For a time with Duolingo, I would go back and forth between French and Italian, but I've stayed pretty consistent with my Italian in the last year, just because I really do want to get better and to grow. I will say language acquisition in general, So to answer the question in terms of my strategy,
Sure.
I see lots of people on it. I invite you to follow me on Duolingo. I don't know how you can do that, but
What's your handle?
I don't know. It's my name, I think. I don't know. I'd have to
If
look.
you want to be Amanda's friend, and you can challenge your friends to.
Where's your profile? Like, how do you...
I don't have my phone here, otherwise I'd look. But
where is it?
look at who you're friends with. It should say.
Friends with John Bork.
No, don't say who you're friends with.
Oh.
Look at what it says. Like the challenges you currently have with friends.
Oh, okay.
While Amanda's looking that up.
Okay, hang on. So, me and Mitch. Okay, so it's Amanda JB.
Okay, Amanda
It's
JB.
Amanda JB.
Perfect.
So just find me at Amanda JB. There's 67 people following me. But I find with some friends, I see them and they're doing a ton. There's one friend of ours who's learning Danish, and you know it because when you have to do challenges, because you get paired up with friends to do challenges, which just means you both are committing, and they'll give you little goals because they have what they call XP, which are just points.
Sure.
I don't know why they're called XP, but sometimes it'll be a lot of XP and you'll think, well, that's a huge goal, but that's because that person, that's the norm for them.
I see.
It's their algorithm that you're tapping into. For me, it's about consistency and doing it every day. If I only do 2 minutes and do a little tiny challenge for 2 minutes, then at least I've done 2 minutes of Italian a day. My goal is I'll just keep speaking Italian every day until I someday, the dream is someday, can say I speak Italian.
Maybe we go for 2 weeks and you learn and you get to use what you've spent 1,500 days learning.
Well, that's what I was going to say with French. I spent years and years and years with textbooks and in classes, but the vast majority of French that I learned was from doing a French immersion program for 5 weeks, where it was many benefits to it. We don't have to talk about the program.
Sure.
We can talk about it another time if people are interested, but it's a very special program they have in Canada. And the rule was if you get caught speaking English more than twice, you're gone. And I had a lot of incentive to stay in the program.
Did anyone get kicked out while you were there? Oh, they did.
2 people did. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were really. It was real.
It was strict.
And we found workworkarounds. We would hover around faucets, if you can believe it, and
To
whisper
speak
in English.
All right.
But still, when you think that that's the world you're in, you're gonna learn a language
Sure.
pretty quickly.
You have to, by
yeah.
necessity, right?
And so that's the most French I ever learned to this day, was from those 5 weeks of going to a bar, going to a restaurant, going to class, eating lunch, hanging out, having a coffee with people. And when you do that, you erase the self-consciousness of I'm not very good, because none of you are very good, but you're all trying and working
Sure.
and finding it together. And it really changed the way I look at language.
There you go. So how do you feel about adults learning new things? Do you think they can, or do you think they can't?
I think they can't. No. Can you imagine?
There you go. Susan Ross, you wanted the answer to that.
Well, I mean, I have lots of thoughts, but I feel like I've done a lot of talking. How do you feel about this topic?
I think it's a great way where it's like, okay, you're an adult now. Learn the things you've always wanted to learn,
Mm-hmm.
and not the things you think you should learn.
Mm-hmm.
Because whatever, you know what I mean? Like, at this point in my life, do I need to learn trig? No, because it doesn't excite me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to use it. And if I have to use it, I'll phone a friend.
Mm-hmm.
But I really want to, you got a pasta maker?
Yeah.
I want to learn how to make pasta with the pasta maker.
That's a very achievable goal, I feel like.
So that's one thing I want to do. I wanted to bake,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't do any baking.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to take a class, but then they wouldn't let me into the class. Maybe because I was an adult, they didn't believe in adult learners.
That's not true, and you know that. It's interesting that we're having this discussion today because I went for a long walk today, sort of out of necessity and sort of out of joy and play. Marco had the car, so I was coming home from my work, and it was a beautiful day. And I thought, I wonder what it would be like if I walked all the way home. I didn't do that because it's a 2-hour walk.
Yeah, it's a far walk.
It's quite a hefty walk. But I did probably about an hour of it. And then the other hour I took transit, sort of a 45 minutes on each side or whatever. It was a journey. But my point is, during that time, I was listening to The Power of Vulnerability by Brené Brown.
Do you recommend this book?
Oh, yeah, I really do.
Okay.
I recommend any book I've ever listened to by Brené Brown. I've only ever listened to her books. I love listening to her books. All but one she narrates, and she's an amazing narrator. And this one is actually a live lecture series that's been taped and made into a book.
Who read the one that she didn't? And did you like their read of it?
No, I spent about 3 minutes with it and went, I can't do this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's one of her earlier books, and I think she just didn't have the courage.
I see.
Which is unfortunate because she's amazing. But she talks a lot about all those types of things. And if you don't know Brené Brown, she's many things, but she's a researcher on she's a researcher on the concept of shame.
Okay.
And so all of her studies emerge from that. And so The Power of Vulnerability, she talks a lot about vulnerability in all of her work. And this is about particular wholehearted living. So it's like a lecture series on living a wholehearted life.
Okay.
And what does that mean?
Sure.
And what do the wholehearted among us people, what do they do? How are they different?
And they walk home from work.
Well, so today she was talking about this idea of play and how important play is, and really embracing play, because we're not a species that does a ton of that, at least not
After a certain age, play is not valued.
Well, it's just like, you go have fun, I have a job.
Sure.
In fact, at one point she said, enjoy your ART, I have a JOB, which was really funny.
Was it?
It was when I was walking.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, but the truth is, in terms of our wholehearted life, of our mental well-being, how important play is for us. And so she defines play. And so I was thinking a lot about that today. And I think learning new things, sometimes what I've done this year, or trying to do anyway, is to go back to the things that I loved as a child.
I see.
I don't think people change that much. I don't think I've changed that much. I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot.
So what did you love as a child that you're going to go back to?
I loved swimming, and we've talked a lot about
It's true.
that.
Amanda bought a swim cap.
I did. And I haven't worn a swim cap. There's a picture of me in New Hampshire at about 10 years old wearing a swim cap, and I look hilarious with a strawberry shortcake bathing suit.
Oh,
and,
that's amazing.
I feel like I'm going back to that person now. I loved dancing. I haven't quite re-embraced that, but that is definitely on the agenda. I loved languages as a child.
Oh, there you go.
I had no opportunity to learn them, so I would make them up, which I don't recommend as an adult, but I would make them up constantly. But I just loved this concept of travel and of languages. I love the idea of travel as a child. I love cooking.
Sure.
I think I've been edging closer to getting back, getting into pottery. I loved pottery.
I've got to get you in that class. Knitwise wants to know when you're going to be taking the class.
Happen.
Okay, so
but the question is, am I doing it alone?
I'll do it with you, but
do you want to do it with me though?
I'll do it with you if you want me to do it with you. Okay, I will do it with you because
No, I want you. Okay, do you want to do it with me? It's not about what I want. It's about, do you want to do it? Because I don't want to do it without you if you actually want to do it.
Listen, I could be convinced either way. However,
I don't need to convince you. I just want to know where you stand on a pottery class.
Since we've been watching the Pottery Throwdown, which is an awesome show, folks, if you're looking for a show to watch.
And now we're watching the Great Canadian Pottery Throwdown.
And we have a friend who we ran into recently who's a potter.
Yes. You should do
Michael Miranda. I should have Michael Miranda.
You should have Michael Miranda on the show to talk about pottery. Mm-hmm. He's a lovely person, a great potter, and a very talented actor as well.
He'll probably never hear this that we're going on. Okay. He's fantastic. I gave him a big hug. And you know those moments where your friend is trying to get to their car and drive home, but you want to talk to them for one last minute. And so you kind of hold them in the vestibule of a location.
Case, movie theater.
In a movie theater. And his lovely wife was just standing there as I spoke to him for easily 20 minutes.
I know.
About pottery.
I know.
And folks, you would think because you listen to this podcast that I would be calm and easygoing about it. But rather, I was yelling, grabbing his hands and shaking him as I screamed about pottery and the great pottery throwdown
so funny.
in his face. And he seemed to love every minute. And his wife was just looking at me and you thinking, who are these two?
Yep.
So we do need to get him on the podcast.
We do.
So, Michael, that's an open invitation for you on the podcast. But I also want to talk about blown away.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so we've got 6 minutes left. Sorry.
Oh, my goodness.
Susan wanted to ask about swimming in Florida in the Atlantic Ocean, beach swimming and things related to it, walks or things we do in Florida, but that'll have to wait.
Are we recording next week?
Yes, we have to pre-record for next week.
Oh, pre-record.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, are we recording on location? Because we're on location next week.
I'm not bringing a microphone.
Okay.
Should I bring a microphone?
I don't know. We'll figure it out. But that would address the swimming question.
Okay, so we'll see. We'll see if I have...
If you don't want to, then you don't have to. I want you to have a vacation.
Yeah, it's true. So we were going to talk about Blown Away.
Let's be blown away by Blown Away.
So Blown Away is this competition show that takes place, that is filmed in Hamilton, Ontario, so not far from us. We have friends who just moved to Hamilton.
We did.
Shout out to Connor Thompson and Ashley Comeau. And where they create things out of glass. They blow glass, they spin glass, they pull glass, they do all kinds of glassy things.
They do.
And when it first came on, we both thought it was ridiculous. Then we were home for 2 years and we got into it, and now we can't get enough of it.
Exactly.
And season 4 is out now on Netflix here in Canada. But look for Blown Away wherever you are, and you'll probably really enjoy it. That's all I have to say about that. Yeah.
Well, and Blown Away has made me think a lot about this idea of play.
Sure.
Because they talk about the type of people that are drawn to creating glass and working with glass. There's different types of people. Some work more with blown glass. Others are more sculptor kind of people that got into it and use glass as a medium. So I do think of creative pursuits. And one of the things I was listening to Brene Brown say today is the number of people who, when you talk about it or really investigate, a lot of us were told at younger ages that we weren't particularly gifted in some type of creativity, whether it's like you can't draw.
Sure.
She said one teacher said to a kid, it's so good you're smart because this does not look like a horse. And just an offhanded comment.
Right.
Probably said out of love, right? But after that, he just realized he had a real issue with drawing.
Sure.
Was asked to do it on a university application, like draw what this feels like to you or something for Rice University. And then he didn't go because he didn't want to do the drawing.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I think and part of it is we're all creative and it doesn't have to be perfect or good. You don't have to be an amazing painter to take a painting class. Or in my case, I have a sister-in-law who's an amazing potter, right? So there's a little piece of me that's like, well, I would never give her, I would take a beginner pottery class and then hand her, a bowl that I made because I'd feel really like self-conscious about my beginner bowl.
She actually knows someone who's a judge on the Great Pottery Throwdown.
Like she's up there in the pottery world, right?
I want to see her on a pottery throwdown.
I'd like to see her do pottery.
I'd like to see her pottery and hold it.
That's a member of our family. Then we've never seen her do one of the things that she's incredible at doing when I think about it.
You know, what you said just made me think of a line from a song.
Tell me.
I'm not perfect, but I'm perfect for you. You got to bring that to the task that you thought you weren't perfect or someone told you weren't perfect, and just know that you're perfect.
I'm perfect for this moment. And that's all I need to be. I'm perfect for myself enough, because really, who are you creating for?
Exactly. Do you know who wrote that song?
No.
Or who sings that song? Grace Jones, in case anyone's wondering.
Oh, that's not what I thought you'd say at all.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be like Willie Nelson.
No, he's a great songwriter. Don't get me wrong. But every once in a while, you got to throw out
a
Grace Jones for sure.
It's a great place to end it, I guess.
And this is where we are, Amanda. We're at the end of our podcast. Mm-hmm. I also want to give a lovely whisper out, not a shout out, because at this point in our show, hopefully people have fallen asleep. But we have a lot of listeners who listen during the day. They like to listen as they start their day, and they have no intention of listening for sleep, but they like to hear the sound of our voices. So I want to thank those listeners very much for being the listeners who listen to the end of the podcast and enjoy it. And whoever you are out there, please know that we value you and we're happy to have you.
And we're happy to start a beautiful day with you.
So I hope it's a beautiful day wherever you are. And
Yeah.
until next time, Amanda, I hope you were able to listen, enjoy,
And maybe
sleep.